Wicked. Wicked tones, you know.
I was actually on a podcast yesterday, It's Just Bodybuilding podcast with Ron Partlow and Dusty Hanshaw and Scott McNally. So I appreciate those guys having me on. I actually wanted to be on that podcast for a while because I like all those guys. I grew up competing when I got my pro card and stuff. I said this on the podcast, but Ron Partlow was if you ever have an arch nemesis in bodybuilding, people always have guys they compete against, and so that I had never competed against Ron before I competed against him at the Nationals, but I told him I came back to Canada and I was fucking new here, but then we didn't have social media wasn't so prevalent, so we saw update pics or hype up stuff in magazines. And Muscle Mag used to be a magazine up here back in the day, and they used to profile a lot of Canadian guys, and they'd always profile Ron. And I was coming up in the level system in Ontario we used to have when bodybuilding used to be worth a shit in Ontario. And because not that it's not worth a shit now. There's plenty of great bodybuilders. I'm not shitting on Ontario bodybuilders. I'm just shitting on the way things are done. It's so fucking watered down. Bring back the level system. Make guys have to qualify and actually gain ground and get better to get to the next level. Not just do one show, boom, you're a pro qualifier. How does that... I realize it's simpler for the organizers and the promoters, I get that. But it's also you're losing money, because if you have a level 1 show and a level 2 show, you're gonna get more people. Then let's say you have a level 2 and a level 3 show, and let's say you just have a level 3 show, or any just level of the levels, people are still gonna be coming to those shows, right? Because you have to re-qualify for the different levels. So in essence, it's money lost, I think. And it's more of a headache gain because you have more competitors overall in one single show or less shows. It's chaos. But anyway, back to that. I was competing here, and I didn't really have. I was going to the Canadas, the Nationals, and Ron was coming up because Ron had won the Nationals before. He was always winning super heavies, but he just wasn't winning overall, which was mind blowing to me. The guys that won deserved to win, but Ron looked great. Ron was always in condition. Ron was always fucking big as shit, monster dude. So I'm basically everyone who had hype behind them had now moved on, and I was this was basically Ron's time, and even I thought that. I'm coming to the show. This is my first Nationals. So yeah, I'm a big guy. But this guy's been there, and in my mind I'm you gotta pay your fucking dues and make a good showing at National and come back. And even really, I can remember vividly telling my coach at the time, Darren, I just want to do well because I'm only gonna do the Nationals twice. So I want to do well this year, see what it takes to come back next year and get it done, right? Understanding that. It was my mentality going in. It wasn't oh, I'm gonna win, I'm the best guy ever. It was I just want to do well. I'm if I can somehow squeak out a victory, which I did because I won by 1 point. Ron told me that yesterday. I didn't know that. If I can somehow win super heavies, that'd be the ultimate goal. Forget the overall, forget the pro card. Let me just win my class, so at least I know I'm really on the right path, right? And then I went there and I won. And I told him leading up to it, I'm I didn't even know you, bro, and I hated you. I was in the nicest way because he motivated me, right? I'd see this guy, and I was my coach at the time, Darren, would just he knew it would get under my skin, so he's Ron's gonna be better conditioned than you. Ron, you're not gonna be big enough. We can't play that game with Ron. We gotta get conditioned. Just fucking in my head all the time. Remember being 2 weeks out and posing for him, and he's like, if you go in looking like this, Ron's gonna beat you. I'm motherfucker. So I hated I guess I hated Darren more than I hated Ron, because Ron wasn't physically saying shit to me. But in my mind, I'm fuck Ron. God damn it, Ron. But then I went to Nationals, and I think when I went with the weigh-in, I was well, yeah, he is a monster. This is a person who lives up to the hype of being an actual fucking monster, right? But he was just honestly one of the nicest people, and I'm sure anyone can attest to that who's met Ron or dealt with Ron in bodybuilding. He's one of the nicest dudes you'll ever meet, and most genuine people. Just loves bodybuilding, and he even talked to me for a minute there, and I was blown away because in my head I'm we're enemies. Do not talk to me. I'm you know what I mean? I'm trying to be in back in football mode where I'm fuck it, fuck the other team, right? I was just I remember walking around with Darren, I was fucking nice guy, eh? I'm like, fuck. Oh, well. So I guess I can't hate him too long. Yeah, it was just a cool story to like go through that. But Dusty Hanshaw is on that as well. I'm a big fan of Dusty. I don't know Dusty well. First time I met him was yesterday on the podcast, but he's a very intelligent trainer and he has a drastically different style than mine. But I appreciate his style and I understand it, and obviously it's working for him because he's a fucking monster. Even coming back from the health problems he had, now he's back to like peak physical shape. It's like, that's a testament to him and his training right there, that what he does works, right? So I was just talking to him about the different styles of training, like, and it just got me thinking like the different methodologies of training. Like there's rest pauses, there's like slower negatives, like faster contraction, whatever it might be. There's all these different like theories and like equations that people put into lifting, right? And people have asked me like, oh, what kind of rep count do you recommend, or what kind of tempo do you recommend, and all this stuff. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, I just feel like I've blended everything into like an amalgamation of like one style. Not in the sense that like all that's not happening in one set necessarily. A lot of it might, but like a lot of it might happen over the workout. So not necessarily like I'm doing explosive reps today and I'm gonna like pause at the bottom and I'm just gonna explode out. You know what I mean? Like, so there's guys who would do like crazy slow negatives on a bench, right? So they might get themselves locked out on their chest where they hold, and it might be like this very controlled, like really accentuating like negative with a little pause, and then all of a sudden it's like here again. And then like there's other guys who work on partials, so they'll pump. They'll work on like, they'll be maximally stretched in a press or maybe a back pull or something, and they're just working on stuff like that. And then there's guys obviously full range of motion, everything's controlled at a quicker pace. And then there's always the guys we know who are like the rapid fires, like and like as you can see, all of those are on muscle if you know how to get on the muscle you're trying to train, which is the goal. So I wouldn't recommend going through this like myriad of other styles of lifting until you really connect with what you're doing. And that's kind of what I said to Dusty. I'm like, when Dusty picks up he does these like floor rows, like I don't know the name of them, I'm probably fucking that up, but he'll basically like get over and he'll like boom snap these like 5 fucking plates, dude. Like I told him my back would break in half, but like that's the way he does that. But it doesn't mean that like every other back exercise he does, he's fucking sitting back on a cable going, bing, bing, bing. You know what I mean? It's like he's connecting to a load. He understands where it is on his back, and he's just moving. And he's learned how to stabilize through like erectors and mid back and lock down in the mid trap. So he's completely like engaged here. So it's just arms pulling because the back has stability, and the lats are moving around the back and pulling up very quick, right? So the back, mid pressure of the back is pushing up to the ceiling. So I'm driving my chest up to it's like a stake is going through me and popping me up through here, and I'm locked in my back. So now my arms can move. Boom. I don't need to move. I'm not doing this or like this because I'm so rigid in my back, even though it's on a very weird angle for most people to control their back, right? So just like when I'm lifting, it's like I try to incorporate all those kind of things into training a training session with someone. So if I'm doing bench and say we're doing this press, say this thing's getting heavy. So this is like a heavier load for the person. This is like maybe a 3rd, 4th set. We've worked them up to like pretty good weight. There's lots of blood in the chest. So we'll get in this position, and say like the first 3 reps are moving like boom. We're just moving, handling the weight, basically able to do what we want with it. And then we start getting into like the 8th or 10th rep, or 7, 8, 10 right in there. So we start pumping and it starts only going to there. So instead of going to here and locking out on chest and elbow, rocking out here, now I'm getting to here. So instead of fighting, because I'm only getting to here, to try and get to there and do this shit, it's like we stay in this partial range and we start working where we're strong. So if I can handle this load in this zone without losing form and keeping my chest up, elbows tucked in, sternum up, then I'm just gonna keep moving. And then you have the thing where there's part, like this is more so for people who lift alone, right? So I'm gonna drive out through reps. I notice nothing's happening. I even take a break in the set because I'm able to lock down, and then I pump a few more. And those last 2 reps could be considered explosive reps in the sense that like I don't have much left in the tank when I'm here and I'm failing and I'm caught here and I'm resting, like taking a deep breath. And then like these punches here with a lot of weight are gonna look slow, but they're aggressive. Just trying to get that weight to move and then we drop, right? So it's just like incorporating all these thoughts of like tempo, explosiveness, and pace into each set that you do. So it's not, and that will elicit failure. Like if this was a heavyweight and that was a real set and I was failing like that and at that range, that's failure. Because completion of the set, completion of the rep is here if we're talking about full range. So anything less than this, we're starting to fail. So if I'm only rocking to here now after 4 or 5 reps, I can only generate enough force or enough drive through my palm to get here, then I'm failing as I go. And I'm rocking down. So maybe I get one forced rep with someone and I rock down. This is all like leading to the path of failure. Failure isn't like what people think where it's like, I'm banging out reps like boom, boom, boom. And then all of a sudden it's like too heavy. It's like, no, man. Like you can, like we always talk about every time, A to B is not the problem. It's not our goal. We want to work in this range between A and B where all the magic happens, all the stretching, all the tearing, all the squeezing, all the contracting. All that shit happens in there. So let's spend more time there. And just because the range is this long, if we're only working this much range, but we were here, we're slowly fatiguing the muscle. It doesn't move anymore. You know damn well you're not going to get another rep. That's why a lot of guys who train like that, train alone. I'm the same way. Cutler speaks about this. He's like, I never went to failure on reps because I trained alone a lot of the time, and I just didn't see the point of it. Because if he knows, like anyone else knows, not to like we're on a bench. I don't want to walk anywhere else. So I could show it. I'll show it on back, but I'm pressing here. I know these are strong reps. So in my mind, I know they're starting to fail. So even if I'm like doing warm-up sets, like I'm leading up to like this is my second set, and I'm driving, I know I can probably get like maybe 5 more. But by the time I get to the 5th one, it's gonna start looking like this. You know what I mean? I'm grinding. So I'm gonna get here as soon as they're smooth and I'm feeling chest, I'm getting pumped. It's like, okay, that was good. So I'm gonna get enough work done because I gotta go up again. It's not the job of your work or you as a trainer or someone training to kill yourself every set. It's not the goal. You guys that are doing that are, forgive the expression because I say it all the time, you're lost, man. Like your workout is an entire journey leading from where you started the workout to where you end the workout. That whole pathway along is how we elicit a good workout. How we determine how pumped our chest gets, our triceps, our back, whatever the fuck it is, right? So understand that not every set is our last set, nor does every set fucking dictate how well we are doing that day, right? So I could start on this fly type machine or a pec deck, anything like that. I get warmed up on here. I'm not gonna blow my load here and like one pump chump it and like I'm so burnt out from fucking doing flies. By the time I get to here, I'm fucking struggling. So by the time I get to the fucking dumbbells, which is like my goal for the day, let's say that's my lift of the day. That's where I really want to push myself. I got nothing in the tank. I'm so fucking burnt out, right? Whereas if I do a couple like nice sets here, I get engagement, I stand up, I start to understand like, okay, there's some blood getting to my pec, like I'm starting to feel good, that like good pump feeling. Then we come to a machine like this or any press machine, it's like, okay, we're getting more of that like deep stretch into the armpit, like lifting sternum, so we're getting ourselves ready for pressing. It's like we're warming up the mechanics while pumping blood into the area. And then we're gonna do our heavy work or our targeted work on the stuff that we choose, right? So a lot of PIs like understand that like flies, machine flies and all this stuff, you should have an exercise on each body part, an exercise or two, which are like your, for lack of a better word, like your lifts or your like heavy lifts. Like I know like when I do back or shoulders, whatever it might be, if I do it with it, I'm like, I know my shrug is good. I know I can really push that weight up without much trouble. You know what I mean? Or some guys like I know my dumbbell press, overhead dumbbell press on shoulders is like, I got that shit locked down. Like I can move weight there. I can really push myself. So everything I'm doing leading up to that dumbbell press, some people just go into it right off the bat. But if you wanted to warm up your shoulders prior, you could do some rear delt stuff. You could do a little bit of like light laterals just to get blood into the area. So when you get to that shoulder press, you're moving better. You're moving with more blood in the muscle. You're able to engage better, right? So just stuff like that. And keeping that idea of having all these tools you have in your tool chest of like half reps, slower negatives, controlled negatives, like forced reps, explosive reps, let's say. There's probably a million I'm not thinking of that I could interpret, right? You can bring those into each exercise you're doing. Like we said, based on your rate of like how well I'm moving a muscle, how well I'm moving on something. So if I understand like, man, this tempo that I'm holding for my chest press isn't enough right now, I need to give myself a little more, boom. And I need to like overdo it a bit just because I'm having to compensate because I'm getting kind of tired quick. This is all styles or little tweaks you can do that are called these fancy things, but they just exist within the set. They don't need to be like Laura, me and you today we're doing bench here and we're doing explosive reps. And we're just gonna get in here and we're gonna fucking, no matter what the fucking weight is, even if it's right here, it is on 90 pounds, even if it's 90 pounds, it's poof. And we're gonna go really slow. And poof. Yeah, that's what we're gonna do the whole time. We keep going up and up and up. It's like, well, I'm sure that'll work for some people, but it's like, is it the best option when you're just trying to lift weights and look better? I don't know.
And it's boring.
Yeah, it's fucking boring.
Change it up.
I honestly don't know, and it's not knocking people that do this because if it works for them, they should just keep doing it. But people that like still after like 15, 10 years, like a long time of lifting, still do straight sets. If I didn't do supersets, I'd fucking want to shoot myself in the fucking head in here. Because I'm just bored. Unless it's like I'm doing supersets, and then I'm kind of moving on to a movement like I know I'm gonna like really push, like a shrug or like a bent over row or something I don't really want to superset with, because I know the exertion the force I'm needed to generate and the exertion I'm gonna do is gonna like cause me to like be tired and like exhausted, need to rest between sets. But it's like in general, like the name of the game in bodybuilding is blood volume. As much as everyone wants to debate that and strength and this and that, it's like, if you're trying to get more blood into the muscle you're training, you're trying to fill up that muscle, fill up your biceps, fill up your triceps, fill up your shoulders. In doing that, you will have to lift progressively heavier weight to elicit the pump, because I can't get the same pump that I got off 15-pound dumbbells when I did laterals when I was 15 that I get now at 41 years old. I gotta do 30s, I gotta do 40s, I gotta like play around, different angles, sit down, make it harder. So like understand that like that part of the process goes without saying. We're always trying to progress. We're always trying to get better. But that's not like I'm at 90 pounds, today I gotta do 220. Just because like I want to do it today. And then these people take 220 off, I can't even step this thing down. And they're like, oh, like I am here, right? I can't even move the fucking thing. So it's like 90 could also just like 130 might be a real bitch. That might be fucking tough. And you'd be like, oh, well, but it's still only 130. Look how much more stack there is. It's like, they made the stack, think of the stack, the lower you go on the stack, equals more experience and more time. Don't think that it means like the quicker you get there, the more you gain shit. Like, oh, once I rack this thing, mastered this fucking thing, let's go find another machine to rack. That's like these guys, like all power to them with the fucking gym pin. Like, you're missing the fucking boat, guys. Like unless you're just like stupid strong, which I get. Some people are dumb strong and you need more weight on it. It's like cool, but like also just maybe make what you're doing harder with that full stack. Don't put a pin in there and add 45 plates to it. Like, what are we talking about? Fucking Incredible Hulk?